Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali on TV1.
And a very good evening to you and a warm welcome to Newsline Live. My guest today is Dr. Athulasiri Samarakoon, who is a senior lecturer at Sri Lanka's Open University. And his speciality is politics and international relations. Very good evening to you, Doctor. Welcome to the show.
Good evening.
And because your speciality is politics and international relations, I just thought I'd ask you before we get to the program proper. I thought I'd ask you, whatever happened to the non-aligned movement? What happened to Sri Lanka's non-aligned status?
Yeah, unexpected question. Anyway, non-alignment as a concept is seriously being questioned now whether the concept is still valid or not. But I would say non-alignment as a policy is still alive.
It's alive, but is it in this current context with all these sort of fights or sort of movements between the superpowers and so on? Is it something that any country is actually able to do, especially a country like us? We are so dependent on so many countries.
So non-alignment doesn't mean that you are not siding with any country, but you side with certain policies.
Right.
Not that you choose your permanent friends or permanent enemies.
Right.
So you can choose between good policies and bad policies, because you have to have your conscience as a country, and you can take your national interest to the fore, and you can decide on the course of action according to the will of the nation.
Indeed. Thank you. I know that was an unexpected question, but it only came to my head just as I read your thing to say about the international relations. So, but thank you for answering that. And then, let's if we go through today's evening. Our title is Sri Lanka, Does Governance Need a Reset? What do you say? Does governance need a reset?
Yeah, of course. Any system of governance has its own time. It should undergo certain reforms, right? From time to time, there should be certain negotiations of power, etc. So, in that sense, I think Sri Lanka needs a reset in its governance system, because I think that was the message also during the last couple of years, when the people took in large protest into the streets, right? Like Goldface struggle, etc. So that signals that people also demand for a certain change in the system of governance in Sri Lanka.
And Dr. Samarakoon, what about this? I don't know if it's a cliche, but everywhere you read, you watch it on TV, you hear podcasts and all sorts of things. People are migrating, professionals are migrating. Yeah. How is this affecting the university system in our country?
Yeah, this what we call this brain drain.
The brain drain, indeed. The brain drain.
Yeah, I think university teachers have long been discussing this phenomena. When we started the 2012 6% GDP struggle, so that our slogan was that to stop brain drain. So there should be some sort of package which can attract the professionals, the academics, into our universities. So
the 6% of GDP on education, is it actually, do they spend 6% or do they spend much less?
It's very much less now, but UNESCO's benchmark, the standard amount that a country should spend on education is 6% of its GDP on education.
And would you know offhand what the figure in Sri Lanka is?
It's less than 2% currently on all sort of educations, including higher education and school education and all other educations.
Is this brain drain, is that one of the reasons why they say, some say, that, when our president says it anyway, that that education should be an essential service?
No, it is not because of that. Actually, this idea was expressed by the president in the context in which FUTA was undertaking another protest.
Yeah.
Recently, we had a protest. It's a kind of long protest again, which ran for more than 1 month, continuous strike. So in that context, the president wanted to actually suppress our movement, the voice of the university academics. So that is where he actually, in a way, he threatened academics that I would make this education an essential service. And of course, we urged the president, please make this an essential service, because that is the most essential service.
Indeed.
This nation.
So you got no
can
problem
benefit.
with that.
Yeah.
You have no.
We
problem
have
with
no
that.
problem with it.
Right. But he tried to use
But
it.
he meant something else
Right.
by mentioning that.
Right.
Not that he wants the education to be essentially provided by the state, but he would make various other means to distribute education to the people, because in his mind. So we know that his agenda is to completely privatize the entire education system.
Which in your view, Sri Lanka is not ready for?
We are not against private education, but if this current phase of reforms continues, so we fear that the entire university system would not get any fund from the government. Right now, the Open University of Sri Lanka is not getting funds from the government. Government pays only the salaries. The capital grant is cut, and all other expenditure has been stopped. So Open University is now left to find its own expenditure. It's
how many university? What's the capacity in Sri Lanka?
There are about 16, larger universities.
Yeah, but in terms of student numbers, is about 35,000?
Yeah, annually nearly 30,000 students are admitted.
But
to the university.
that's only a fraction, isn't it?
That's only a fraction, but that is the capacity now.
But don't you think that we need to be building the capacity up?
Of course, we need to be building capacities, and that can be done by various means. There are various ways to do that.
Yeah.
So we are not entirely opposing the private
But
education.
why is it the government so staid? Because every year, on average, about 350,000 children enter the education system, and 10 years later, or whenever it is that it's time to go into university, they've only got 30,000 places anyway.
Yeah, because now every government keeps telling that once in power that they would increase the capacities of the university, but that has not happened to a satisfactory level. But
why do you think that is?
That is because that is the kind of interest that the state takes in education, promoting education, particularly the state education. And there are various areas I think we should be building capacities in providing education, particularly IT and various other new fields have to be definitely sponsored by the government, because there's a large number of students who can never get a place in any university due to this very competitive system. But the private sector is also not that actually catering to.
Why again? I raise the
because
question.
Private sector is is not having enough capacity, because private sector only can cater to a certain class of people.
Which is the money.
Yeah, which much depends on money, because provision of education takes a lot of expense now.
Would your unions and so on, would they welcome a move towards state education that is means tested, so that the people who can afford it can go into private university?
Yeah, now government has started even a loan scheme for those students who want to enter a private university. So I don't know whether these schemes are in operation. But for example, the Open University has a bigger capacity, which is a larger network of regional campuses, regional universities, regional study centers.
Yeah.
So it can attract a large number of students, but still the government should play a certain role unless it is difficult for any university to survive, because education, the provision of education is not that it's not an easy task, because it requires many other arrangements.
Your organization sort of withdrew from the strike. Does that mean the fight is over?
No, certainly fight is not over.
Okay.
So fight can emerge anytime. But for the time being, we called the strike off, and that is actually because of the students, student population, those students who have just sat for A-level and waiting for results. So the academics decided that we should listen to the people, even though the government is arbitrary and trying to operate very authoritatively and in an authoritarian manner. So we are not afraid of the government's authoritarianism.
But you're not afraid when this president who has all this untrammeled power in this country, aren't you afraid when he said, I'll make sure if you don't do it, you don't mark the papers, you'll even lose your property?
No, we are
frightened about that?
No, we can't be threatened like that. So because it is not because of the president's threats or anything that we stop the struggle. It is because of the demand from the people.
Right.
Because people and the civil society negotiated with FUTA largely, I'm telling. So we listen to them. Right. And we listen to media, we listen to the public opinion. We understood that the continuation of this struggle with a sort of government that we are having right now is in any way not benefiting any party. So that's why we stop.
I see. And thank you very much for your questions. 0772 300 305. Card coming up on your screen soon. There you go. Send it to us by WhatsApp or by SMS, no problem. It says here, you're playing with the future of Sri Lanka. Why do trade unions, especially the professional trade unions such as FUTA, GMOA, always launch trade union actions whilst putting lives of people at risk? Would you agree with that statement, or would you deny it completely?
No, certainly I would not agree, but I respect that idea, because anyone can opine like that. But people should also understand what FUTA was demanding. We were not just demanding a salary increase.
No,
we never asked for a salary increase this time.
Yeah.
But one thing that we asked, we demanded not to cut our salary, the existing salary.
Okay.
Because 36% of the salary has been cut, right? That is a huge amount.
Cut as in being taxed?
As tax,
right.
as direct tax, right?
Right.
Because it is not bearable. We cannot afford that. So we have very clearly pointed out that this is enormous, because as academics, it's beyond our capacity to have.
What did the president say? What did the government say?
President never wanted to listen to us, but some of his officials, particularly the minister Susil Premajayantha, actually they had their kindness to listen to us, and we negotiated well, and finally we had an interim solution also, which actually arbitrarily the president denied again. President did not want to listen to the minister, and what President ultimately did was to cut the minister's portfolio and give it to the State Minister of Education.
Do you get the feeling? I'm getting the feeling that this is becoming growing authoritarianism.
Yeah, certainly. Since the end of the struggle, the kind of attitude that the government is maintaining is against democracy, is against freedom. Whereas the struggle, people's struggle demanded more freedom, demanded more democracy, demanded less corruption, less authoritarianism. But but this government is acting on the contrary, and government wants to concentrate more power in one person, in one institution, that is the presidency. So, which has been criticized since 1978 onwards, right?
Indeed. Thank you, Dr. Samarakoon. Now time for the primetime news headlines. Let's take a look and rejoin Dr. Athulasiri Samarakoon from the Open University on Newsline Live this evening. See you on the other side.
Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali on TV1.
Social activist Piat Nikeshala admitted to hospital after an assault. "18 train journeys suspended due to railway station master strike. Passengers travelling without tickets to be fined." Justice Minister opposes debate on Express Pearl disaster, says it will influence ongoing court case. Party leaders agree to continue debate in a manner that does not influence legal proceedings. What happened to parliamentarian S.B. Disanayaka's ministerial position?
ඔබතුමා කියන්නේ නැද්ද දන්නේම නැද්ද? නෑ මම දැනගත්තත් කියන්නේ.
දුන්නොත් ගන්න අකමැත්තකුත් නෑ.
නෑ ඒකත් මම දැනට එහෙම තීන්දුව කරනවා.
Omani investor granted BOI facilities to recommence business. Indika Anuruddha denies allegations of assault, says his parliamentary privileges have been violated. IMF staff team to arrive in Colombo tomorrow.
Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali on TV1.
And welcome back to Newsline Live. I'm in conversation with Dr. Athulasiri Samarakoon, senior lecturer at the Open University of Sri Lanka, and his majors are politics and international relations. FUTA members had also refrained from engaging in academic activities at state universities as part of their protest. Do you think it's fair by the students who are not at all at fault?
Yeah, no action is fair for everyone. It's
Right.
only it can be fair for those who are actually the victims of some policies.
Yeah.
So we have been the victims of this unfair tax system. So that is why we started this protest this time. It is not meant. It was never meant to hurt anyone, students, suppress students or the people. But the nature of trade unionism in any way is like that. When doctors are on strike, the patient would be suffering, and when the academics are on strike, definitely the students have to suffer.
Yeah. So you are saying that it's an unfortunate aspect of life.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because we couldn't help. But if the government could listen to us at least for 5 minutes, because we were at the end we were only demanding a meeting with the president to explain the situation of the universities right now, because it's at a very dire situation. Because whereas there is no room for new recruitment, there is no room for capital grant, there is no funding, right? So universities are left to undergo a natural death in Sri Lanka. So this is the harsh reality which government actually covers up with a lot of propaganda.
But Dr. Samarakoon, they had to raise taxes because the country is bankrupt.
Yeah,
What do you say about that? Why would only the teachers be given grants? Everybody is suffering in this.
Yeah, the government has to, any legitimate government
Yeah.
has to raise taxes. So
Yeah.
we don't deny that.
Yeah.
And but in that case also, as professional associations, more than 47 professional associations joined with us, and we drafted a certain document where we pointed out certain new avenues where the government can actually get more taxes.
Yes.
Because by taxing the academics, government would only get very minute amount of money into the treasury. So that is actually not a sufficient amount, because whereas the government expenditure is very high, but the loss of tax, right, is very high when it comes to certain areas. Now, for example, these import taxes, right? We know what happened to the import of sugar, and recently what happened to the import tax of various other goods, right?
Indeed.
So government overnight reduced those taxes and reduced
to help their
up
friends?
to 25 cents in certain cases, right?
Yes.
So government
the
lost
sugar.
a huge amount of money, in billions.
But some people made money.
Some people made money, so
Very few.
So it's very unfortunate that not only this government, not only the past government, many governments.
Yes,
so
the
because
successive governments.
Their first priority is to please the people around them, people those who supported them to come into power. So how the government pleases their supporters, their cronies, is to allow them to import anything and then reduce the tax.
To help them.
To help them.
But not help the people.
Not help the people.
And Dr. Athulasiri Samarakoon, tell me, the government, forever and a day, they keep telling us, look, you need to tighten the belt and you need to pay more taxes, you can't import cars. Anyway, who has the money to import cars now? And so on. But do you have an issue with the fact that there is no one to tell the parliamentarians to cut down?
Yeah, actually, one of the slogans of the Goalface struggle it was that no to 225. Because in a way that signified that people were unhappy with this system.
Right.
With
the existing
in which
225.
actually corrupt people are elected to the parliament, right? More and more corrupt people, those who have earned money through highly unjust ways, right? Highly illegitimate ways, right? So they earn money somehow, and then their aim is to get into parliament and become lawmakers. But the role of the lawmakers have been seriously questioned by the people, right? So I think that is where the republic should lead to, because republic is the government by the people. The government should belong to the people and not to any power elite or not to any authority, right?
There are some, who say that professional trade unions and others are sort of aligned to or carry out the political work of some political party, whichever party it is. Would you agree that is your organization also driven by politics like that?
No, as individual members of any organization, so we are free to be the members of any party.
Right.
To work for any party. So that right cannot be actually denied for any citizen of this country.
Right.
So, but our membership is largely, ultimately, they take democratic decisions, right? So as FUTA, we take democratic decisions, not the and we cannot be manipulated by any particular party as such. So there are certain professional bodies which are actually maybe the part of a party, but FUTA and some other unions are not a part of any party. But our membership is constituted by people who belong to various parties: JVP, SJB, UNP, SLPP. So all sort of members maybe they are in the executive committee of the FUTA, but they take a democratic decision, majority decision, right? That is how we practice.
Futa had a meeting with President Wickremesinghe to discuss the issues that prompted them to resort and prolong their trade union action. What was promised throughout this meeting? Have your expectations been met?
Never. We expected the meeting, but President had no time. Then he had to leave for England to attend this coronation ceremony.
Yeah.
So that is what we know about it. After that, there is no news that we are getting a meeting with President.
So it's still up in the air.
Up in there.
And what do you think? How can we best resolve this? What would your ideal situation be?
No, any government, any caring government should be listening to the people, should be listening to the intellectuals, the media, the civil society of a country. Because a government cannot make arbitrary decisions and make policies overnight. So any policy has to be negotiated and thoroughly been argued by the people. So that shows the strength of a democracy. But Sri Lanka, being a very, very weak democracy, has always not democratic enough, been not democratic enough, we would say. But the problem is Mr. Wickremesinghe is that he takes arbitrary decisions because he doesn't feel the gravity of those decisions, because Wickremesinghe will not face any consequences of the decisions that he is making right now. Right now, I would say that the president's agenda is to get re-elected in 2024. That is his only aim.
So the teachers and the professionals and the people of Sri Lanka have to pay the price.
People have to pay the price because after Sri Lanka being declared as a bankrupt nation, now we have stopped paying our loans to foreign nations. So that is so in a certain period to come, we will have to restart the payment of debt services, right?
Thank you, Dr. Samarakoon. Now then, thank you for your questions again. Reducing taxes on goods benefit the public at large. But how can he say don't tax the lecturers but tax the poor man by increasing import taxes?
No. Now, I'm not an economist, but any person knows that the largest amount of tax is being collected through indirect taxes, the goods and services that we consume. So they are being highly taxed. Actually, direct tax is very limited. So our problem is not the tax indeed, but an unfair tax. So we actually at a point we requested government to reduce this 36% to 24%, right? So we had such a very reasonable demand, so which government could not understand, right? So our problem is also living actually we are also putting up a struggle on a daily basis with a fixed salary, but with a huge inflation, huge rates of interest. Most of the academics and the professionals are highly indebted. So these are realities actually. So you can't say that it is your problem that you have built a house and you have bought a vehicle like that, right?
Tell me, it's last minute or so, 90 seconds. Tell me, now people aren't protesting now for whatever reason. Maybe they're scared because of the use of the PTA or whatever it is, and so on. But do you think the change will happen?
Yeah, change will happen, but it will take time because changes do not happen overnight. Because any revolution, any struggle will have long-term impact. Now, 1789 French struggle, French Revolution had a long-term impact on the entire world and particularly on Europe, right? So similarly, I would say that Sri Lanka's recent struggles could have long-term consequences, long-term positive consequences, where people would be demanding for a better future, better democracy, and less authoritarian government. So we need a change. That change should come through the people with their consent.
Thank you, Dr. Athulasiri Samarakoon. It's now time for the primetime news. Take care, have a great evening, and as always, God bless you all.